Something is different today. You feel it, don't you? That quiet stirring in your chest that won't let you rest. That thought circling back no matter how many times you push it away. That strange sense that the world around you looks the same, but something beneath it has shifted. You can't name it yet. You can't explain it to anyone. But it's there, persistent, impossible to ignore, like a whisper that keeps calling your name from just beyond your awareness. Most people will move through this day without noticing a thing. They will go about their routines, check their phones, have their conversations, and never once feel the subtle current that is running through everything right now. But you are not most people. Something in you is tuned to a different frequency. And that frequency is picking up on a change that others simply cannot see. This is not coincidence. This is not imagination. What you are sensing is real, and it has a source that stretches far beyond your immediate circumstances. Above you, invisible to the eye but powerful in its influence, the sky is arranging itself in a pattern that hasn't occurred in quite this way for a very long time. And that pattern is speaking directly to the parts of you that have been waiting, sometimes patiently, sometimes desperately, to finally be heard. Right now, at this very moment, Venus is moving into a rare and uncomfortable angle with Black Moon Lilith. These are not random celestial bodies drifting through space without purpose. Venus governs everything you desire, everything you value, everyone you love, and every dream of beauty and connection that lives inside your heart. It represents what you reach for when you imagine a life that feels complete. And Lilith, the mysterious black moon, represents something entirely different. It holds the secrets you keep even from yourself. It guards the desires you've been taught to suppress, the truths you've learned to silence, the parts of your identity that don't fit neatly into the roles others expect you to play. When these two forces meet through tension, through a 135-degree angle that astrologers call a trioctile, something extraordinary begins to happen. The walls you've built between your public desires and your private truths begin to crack. The distance between what you show the world and what you actually feel starts to collapse. And the parts of yourself you thought you had successfully hidden begin to rise toward the surface, asking, demanding to finally be acknowledged. This is why you've been feeling unsettled lately. This is why satisfaction keeps slipping through your fingers even when everything around you seems fine. This is why certain emotions have grown stronger, more insistent, more difficult to contain. The energy building in the sky is reaching into your life and stirring up everything you thought you had under control. You may have noticed it first as a vague dissatisfaction, a sense that something isn't quite right even though you couldn't identify what was wrong. Perhaps it showed up in your relationships, where suddenly you found yourself wanting more than you've been receiving, or giving less than you've been expected to provide. Maybe it appeared in your ambitions, where old goals started to feel hollow and new desires began to emerge from places you didn't know existed within you. Or perhaps it simply arrived as restlessness, a feeling that you're meant for something different, something more aligned with who you actually are rather than who you've been pretending to be. None of this is random. None of this is coincidence. Every uncomfortable feeling, every rising desire, every moment of unexpected clarity is connected to the larger pattern unfolding above you right now. The universe is not punishing you with this discomfort. It is preparing you for something. It is creating the conditions necessary for a shift that your soul has been waiting for longer than you realize. And just as this internal stirring reaches its peak, something else is happening in the sky that changes everything. The moon, that ancient mirror of human emotion, is shifting into Leo. This is not a small change. The moon determines how you feel, how you react, how you process everything happening inside you, and Leo is the sign of the heart on full display, the sign that refuses to stay small or silent, the sign that demands recognition not out of ego, but out of a deep knowing that what it carries is real and valuable and deserving of space in the world. So now you have two powerful movements working together. The Venus-Lilith tension is pulling your hidden desires up from the depths. The Leo moon is giving those desires a voice, a presence, a way to exist beyond the confines of your private thoughts. What was once safely buried is now pushing toward expression. What was once invisible is beginning to take shape in ways you can no longer ignore. This combination creates something rare. It creates a moment where internal honesty meets external courage. It creates a window where you might finally say what you've been holding back, finally acknowledge what you've been denying, Finally step towards something that feels true even if it terrifies you. These windows don't stay open forever. They appear, they offer their gifts, and then they close, leaving you either transformed or still waiting for the next opportunity. Pay attention to what's happening within you right now as you hear these words. Notice any tightening in your chest, any quickening of your pulse, any surge of recognition that tells you this message is landing somewhere deeper than ordinary information. Your body knows what your mind might still be trying to deny. Your instincts are already responding to the truth of this moment, even if your conscious awareness is still catching up. The friction you've been experiencing is not meant to break you. It is meant to reveal you. Every moment of discomfort has been pointing towards something hidden that needed to be seen. Every feeling of restlessness has been directing you toward a path you hadn't yet allowed yourself to consider. The tension exists because you've been living with a gap between your surface choices and your deeper truth, and that gap cannot be sustained indefinitely without consequences. This is where the energy starts to shift from simple awareness into something more active, more demanding, more impossible to avoid. Because once you begin to see what has been hidden, once the realizations start to form with clarity, you cannot easily return to the comfortable ignorance that protected you before. Knowledge changes things. Truth, once recognized, refuses to return to shadow without a fight. You may have already started noticing patterns emerging from the fog of your daily experience. Places where you've been compromising more than you realized. Relationships where you've been accepting less than you deserve. Dreams you abandoned not because they were impossible, but because they felt too bold, too different, too much like the real you rather than the acceptable version you learned to present. These patterns don't reveal themselves to torment you. They reveal themselves because you're finally ready to see them, and because the timing is aligned for you to do something about what you discover. The Leo moon adds something crucial to this process. It removes the option of staying small. Leo energy doesn't question whether your feelings deserve expression. It only asks whether they are genuine, and if they are genuine, then they deserve to exist out loud, in the open, without apology or diminishment. This creates a temporary atmosphere where honesty feels less dangerous and more necessary, where speaking your truth feels less like risk and more like relief. You might find yourself wanting to initiate conversations you've been avoiding. You might feel compelled to make decisions you've been postponing. You might notice a reduced tolerance for situations that drain you without giving anything meaningful in return. This is the Leo influence activating your natural authority over your own life, reminding you that you have the right to choose differently, to want differently, to be different than you've been. And here's what makes this moment so significant. These two energies, the deep revealing work of the Venus-Lilith alignment and the bold expressive power of the Leo moon, are not working separately. They are synchronizing. They are creating a bridge between your hidden inner world and your visible outer reality. They are making it possible for the truths you discover about yourself to actually manifest in your choices, your words, your relationships, your direction. This bridge doesn't force you to cross. Nothing in the sky ever removes your freedom to choose, but it does make the crossing possible in a way that it wasn't before and might not be again for some time. The conditions are aligned, the support is present. The question is whether you will meet the moment with the courage it's asking of you. There is something changing in how you feel right now, isn't there? The words you're hearing are landing somewhere real. The possibility being offered is stirring something that recognizes it. This is not manipulation. This is recognition. Something in you already knows that this moment matters, that this energy is genuine, that the window being described is actually present and actually limited. As you sit with this awareness, notice how the hesitation that usually stops you begins to feel different. The fears that normally hold you back seem smaller, less convincing, less worthy of the power you've been giving them. This is the influence working through you, creating space for a version of yourself that operates from clarity rather than confusion, from desire rather than duty, from truth rather than accommodation. The interactions you have in the coming hours and days will carry a different quality. Conversations can cut more directly to what matters. Connections can bypass the usual surface dancing and arrive at something genuine. People around you may respond differently to your presence, not because you're forcing anything, but because your energy is shifting in ways that others naturally sense even without understanding why. This is what happens when you start aligning with what you actually want. Your presence changes, your magnetism increases. Opportunities that seemed invisible before start appearing in your path. Not because the universe suddenly decided to reward you, but because you became available to receive what was always possible once you stopped denying the truth of who you are. There is something building toward a peak right now, a moment where all of this energy reaches its most concentrated form. You can feel it approaching. The clarity is sharpening. The momentum is gathering. The sense that something must happen, something must shift, something must be decided is growing stronger with every passing moment. This is the culmination point, the place where everything that has been building finally arrives at its fullest expression. Not a violent explosion, but a focused presence, a gathered power, a readiness that cannot be maintained indefinitely, because it exists specifically to create movement. Staying still within this energy becomes increasingly uncomfortable. Not as punishment, but as guidance toward the action that's being asked of you. Whatever decision has been hovering at the edges of your awareness, this is when it asks to be made. Whatever words have been waiting behind your lips, this is when they push towards speaking. Whatever step has felt too bold to take, this is when the boldness feels less like risk and more like inevitability. The friction that brought you here has served its purpose. It created the pressure necessary for change. It prevented you from falling back asleep into comfortable patterns that were slowly suffocating the truest parts of you. It kept returning you to this moment, this threshold, this choice, until you could no longer pretend you didn't understand what was being asked. And now, as the intensity begins to release, there is a different quality entering the experience. The urgency softens but doesn't disappear entirely. The clarity remains but becomes less sharp, more integrated, more woven into your ordinary awareness rather than standing apart from it demanding attention. What required so much effort to see now simply feels obvious. What felt like revelation now feels like remembering something you always knew but had temporarily forgotten. This is integration. This is the moment when insight becomes wisdom, when understanding becomes instinct, when the truth you discovered stops being new information and starts being simply who you are. The walls that fell during this process don't rebuild themselves overnight. The desires that surface don't easily return to hiding. The you that emerged through this tension continues existing even after the peak has passed. You may notice in the coming days that decisions come more easily, not because the situations are simpler, but because you are clearer. The second guessing that used to drain your energy loses its grip. The confidence you feel doesn't require external validation because it comes from a deeper place, from knowing rather than hoping, from clarity rather than wishful thinking. The relationships in your life may start reflecting this shift as well. Some connections will deepen because you're finally showing up as yourself, rather than as a careful performance. Other connections may become uncomfortable as the gap between your authenticity and their expectations becomes more visible. This is not something to fear, it is something to trust. What falls away during alignment was never truly yours to keep. What strengthens during truth was always waiting for you to claim it. There is a closing happening now, not an ending, but a completion. The specific window of this energy is reaching its natural boundary. The alignment that created these conditions will shift. The moon will move forward, and the intensity will settle into something quieter. But what occurred within the window remains. The changes that took place inside you don't reverse themselves simply because the celestial conditions that catalyzed them have passed. You are different now, perhaps only slightly, perhaps in ways that won't be fully visible for weeks or months, but the difference is real. A door opened that hadn't been opened before, a truth surfaced that hadn't been acknowledged before. A possibility became clear that hadn't been imaginable before. These shifts accumulate, they build on each other, they create momentum toward a version of your life that actually reflects who you are. What happens next is up to you. The energy has done its part, it revealed what was hidden, it provided the courage for expression, it aligned the conditions for choice. Now the choosing belongs to you, not in some distant future when everything is perfect and every question is answered. Now, in this imperfect present, with whatever uncertainty still remains, the choice is yours. This is not the end of something, this is the beginning of moving through your life with a clearer sense of what you actually want. The beginning of making decisions from truth rather than fear. The beginning of allowing yourself to be seen as you actually are rather than as you've been carefully presenting yourself. The beginning of trusting that what you desire has value, even when it doesn't match what others expect from you. The sky will continue moving, new alignments will form, New energies will arrive with their own invitations and their own challenges, but this particular moment, this specific combination of forces, this window that asked you to see yourself honestly, this won't repeat in exactly this way. What it offered now. What it revealed for you to carry forward. And perhaps the most important thing to understand as this moment completes itself is simply this: you were ready. Whatever part of you felt uncertain, whatever part of you wanted to dismiss what you were feeling, whatever part of you tried to return to comfortable denial, there was a deeper part that was ready. Ready to see, ready to acknowledge, ready to shift. And that readiness, that willingness to meet the moment despite the discomfort, is what made everything else possible. Something inside you is no longer the same, and by the time you fully realize how much has changed, the transformation will have already woven itself into everything you do, everything you choose, everyone you become. This is how the deepest shifts happen, not with announcements or fanfare, but quietly, persistently, until one day you wake up and realize you're living a different life than you were before, not because your circumstances magically changed, but because you did.